All right, and back to our book here, the Isis Thesis, and we're in chapter 15, talking about the Amduat hours, and we're in hour 7. Screenshot. We can get so we can follow along in case you didn't buy the book. The sun god wearing a disk on his head now reflects the name of Afu, or flesh. So it seems that this is the ingredient necessary to initiate unidirectional rolling circle replication. The SI text states that the sun god is journeying on the path of the circle of star Osiris. Thanks to the words of power from Isis, the lactose energy medium, we are in the hall of Osiris and are advancing on the way against Apapis. As discussed earlier, one way of representing the balanced lambda genome with diminished CI protein and rising Crow protein activity is to envision a judgment of protein levels. The Osirian scales of justice with the balanced arms and the right scale of Crow having a larger content than the left scale of CI. The middle register begins with the bark of Ra, who stands under a canopy formed by serpent Mahin and represents Rec A protein filament, necessary for the 7 BP branch migration for prophet's excision. In front of the bark are the Hakasser, Sa, Isis, and 5 gods behind Afu. Isis with arms outstretched is now present at the prow of the bark, and the text assures us that her power, which is lactose energy, contributes to the conquest of Osiris. And in the words of Osiris, if these words of power of Isis and those of Set be uttered, Apapis shall be turned back and shall be shut up in a mentant in the hidden place of the Tuat. And SI is what I refer to when I refer to the Tuat sometimes too, so we can have we can be on one accord with that. We are in the circle of star Osiris in the drawings of a fetid serpent named Naha-Hurrah, representative of Apapis according to the text, and transfixed to the ground with 6 knives and suggests the active form of Rec A, which is the 6 helical polymer of protein subunits and interhelical bundles. The goddess Serket holds a band around his neck, while the god Her-Tesu-F ties a feather on his tail. The text states that Apapis is slaughtered and Isis has overpowered Apapis. Likewise, Coffin Text 1099 states, I saved Ra from Apapis, I seized the writings, I received the offerings, I provide Thoth with what he has to do. I establish millions with points to phage transcription, replication, translation to protein, and phage progeny. If Apapis had not been overcome, then Osiris would die and Apapis would be in the slaughterhouse of the child, coming out of Coffin Text 100. In other words, the recombinant species of Horus child would be slaughtered for Apapis. The monster Lex A repressor protein would allow phage repressor maintenance to maintain Osiris in the lysogenic state, stopping lytic cycle phage production and the birth of the hard species. Also present are 4 goddesses at number 2, each with a knife, who guards 4 rectangular coffins, which are at 3 through 6, with 2 bearded heads on each end near an interior mound of sand, representing hydrophobic base pairs. These coffers of Tim, Khepra, Ra, and Osiris contains forms of each god, which explain the lack of throne or foundations of forms in our 6. These are the hidden heads that eat their own forms after the great god goes by, suggesting DNA degradation, phagocytosis, or destruction of particulate matter. In line with the idea of protein degradation, or the degradation of Osiris, a low concentration of the activator protein C2 transcribed from lambda DNA depends on the amount of protease present in the host cell, which depends on growth conditions. This means that the lytic cycle occurs when favorable growth conditions produce a high amount of protease, a high degree of activator degradation, and low levels of C2 in the lambda genome. The C2 genes encodes a transcription regulator that activates transcription of the gene for lysogeny establishment. The Andrew text stresses the importance of transcription and replication, or making copies according to the writing at the north side of the hidden palace, for this will provide protection and give one the status of spirits with Ra. The hidden palace is the Osiris prophet site. In the upper register, the god shapes or sheeps is mummified at spot 1. In mummified form holds a curved crescent resembling a boomerang. Coffin text 62 states, though throw west thigh boomerang at them, and thousands fall at the sound of its wind. The boomerang, a curved crescent, may indicate the effect of chromatin condensing to the periphery of the nucleus, forming crescents in the process of apoptosis. After the god sheps or sheeps with the boomerang is the lioness Ath at 2. Then the Uraeus Huit at 3 with the head of a woman. Next is Osiris at 4 with 2 plumes on his head, holding a scepter and the life sign, while canopied by the serpent Mahin at 5, as was the deceased sun god at the beginning of this hour. The text informs us that the sun god illumines the darkness to embrace him that is in Mahin, while advising Osiris that he shall live. We can conclude that Mahin, or Rec-A protein, has mediated strand exchange for the 7BP recombination necessary for the excision of the prophets, while forming a helical filament around the ssDNA. The act of the sun god embracing Osiris suggests molecular bonding. Following Osiris and Mahin are indicators of programmed cell death or DNA degradation. 3 headless figures at 6 through 8, or enemies of Osiris, kneel with their arms tied, and the headlessness suggesting absence of protein shells. Before these enemies stand a cat-headed god. At 9, flourishing a knife and a pointed stake. 3 more foes of Osiris at 10 through 12 are lying on their backs, roped to the god Anku at 13. What is interesting is that the text states, your hands and arms are fettered, and ye are tied tightly with bonds, and your soul are kept under ward, and your shades are hacked in pieces. Anku have drawn the cords about you so tightly that ye shall never be able to escape from his restraint. Although most likely indicates apoptosis and destruction of particulate matter, it does remind one of the concept of encircling dimensions in string theory, whereby our three extended dimensions are prevented from expansion. To the Egyptians, encirclement rendered malevolent beings and forces harmless. So the three bound enemies may point to the force that allow expansion of our world's three spatial dimensions, which are under control or inactive. Next are the three bearded human face hawks at 14 through 16, wearing the double crown of north and south, signifying the full function of lambda arms that generate the hard species. Finally, a large serpent at 17 bears the deity of Futem that eats the soul of the enemies of Osiris, another sign of DNA degradation. I want y'all to take a look at all the figures we missed. Figure 15.22 right here. Don't forget the screenshot. All right, we got figure 15.23 here. And this is 15.23 continued. So in case you don't have the book, until you get it, screenshot and read along. In the lower register, the hawk-headed god Haru Kanent is seated on a throne wearing a solar disk encircled by a serpent, which may represent rolling circle replication. He holds a symbol of life and a scepter or replication fork and sends the stars on their way. The solar disk encircled by a serpent also suggests convergence to a periodic or fixed point attractor. Genomic regulation is chaotic, and the scientists use the Boolean network to model the process. This breakthrough modeling technique aids in the analysis of different cell types with periodic attractors to which all states within the basin are attraction converge. One example of patterns converging to a fixed point or limit cycle attractors is that of an isolating pair, such as those in DNA molecule. However, in this case, the convergence of opposing replication forks is a desirable outcome, as indicated by the headdress of the solar disk encircled by a serpent. It has been shown that site-specific termination of replication is the result of pausing of replication forks near the site of transcription termination. Our analysis points to the cessation of bidirectional replication and the advent of the second stage of rolling circle replication. Next are 12 star gods 2 through 13 and 12 star goddesses 14 through 25. The SI states references the 12 star gods, stating, "The majesty of hearts of the Tuat saith unto the starry gods, light up so that I may unite myself with the masters of the horizon." Horus desires to unite with the sun god Ra, which represents the molecular bonding necessary for creation of the Horus species. The text beneath the 12 goddesses reference them as hours endowed with stars who guide Ra. after reviewing Pentecost translation from the tomb of RVI a discussion of the lower register star deities and crocodile at position 26 called the Ab Sha'am Tuwat, described as Osiris, the Eye of Ra, will follow. The introductory text from Ramesses VI. The introductory text to our 7 states that Ra makes a stop in the cavern of Osiris. The sun god is not told, yet he is on a road without water. Oh my. Thus he advances by the magic utterance of Isis and the Elder One, and his own utterance, which suggests the idea of passing on the DNA instruction. The text references the butchering of Apophis in the cave and heaven. In the upper register, the sun god asks Osiris to give him his hand so that Horus may come out of thy loins. Pentecost notes in a footnote that in the tomb of Padamenapet, loins is replaced by head, which indicates the cooperative effort of phage head assembly from the flesh of Osiris. The words written beneath Osiris at 4 with Mahin at 5. Ra states that he lights up Osiris, who is the darkness of the enveloper, the life of spirits, Mahin or Rek-A, and that the flame of the serpent, life of forms, is now directed against the enemies of Osiris. The upper register also displays 3 headless enemies at 6 through 8 of Osiris, along with 3 roped and fallen enemies at 10 through 12. 3 soul birds at 14 through 16 wearing a double crown, follow with the names the brave, the one alive, the form of Capri, and the soul of exalted earth. At the end of the upper register, we have the god seated on the serpent at position 17, called the flesh of Atum, and the serpent named life of forms, life of spirits. This correlates to the image of the flesh of Osiris at 4, enveloped by the life of spirits at 5 that appears first in the upper register, suggesting that Osiris is Atum. This is because the magic of the non-locality has made the deceased sun god not only Osiris, but also Horus and Atum. In addition, this shows the chemical bonding of the deceased sun god or Ra with Osiris to produce the Ha species, which represents a movement to Atum, the god of origin. So in essence, Osiris and Mahin are depicted twice in the upper register, showing the Rek-A protein was active in the excision of the prophets. The text describing the 3 soul birds indicating that they are living and their heads came to being from the sun god's transformation, and they are in the following of the flesh of Atum, that is Osiris and Horus. Once again, the text in the middle register confirms that the sun god is traveling by means of the utterances of Isis and the Elder One, so that the serpent evil phase strays away. The Elder One most likely refers to Atum, the primeval god. The deities in the sun bulk are Isis, mind, magic, flesh of Ra, Horus, the praiser, the bull of truth, the watchful one, will, and he who guides the barge. Under the middle register, evil face at 1 is described as having vertebrae 443 cubits long, and Ra does not pass by him. The text referring to the serpent states that the flesh hides his disc in the earth to pass the serpent, which is lassoed by the goddess Serket or Selkit and another deity from another version other than RVI. We learn the serpent's name is Apophis, and the goddess holding his head is she who gives breath, suggesting the activity of Isis breath or lactose energy. The text relating to the four coffers, 3 through 6, each with 2 heads, state the chests with heads are the mysterious forms of the duat. When evil face is enchanted, they come out. Then they swallow their images when the great god passes them by. The names of the chests are the one which carries the images of Atum, of Capri, of Ra, of Osiris. In the lower register, Horus at position 1 is on his throne, and the text states that the images set the stars in motion and make the hour stop in the duat. Horus states to the stars that their flesh be right, may your forms come into being, you are satisfied with your stars. Horus then speaks to the hours who protect Ra, saying, take your forms, carry your images, lift up your heads to lead Ra to the beautiful west. The names of the 12 gods before Horus are great of the lower region, Lord of the lower region, Lord of the provisions of the earth, the one of the netherworld, Hey of the stars, Hey of the spirits, he who lifts his arms, he whose arms is holy, he who is powerful of arm, knife is his tongue, knife is his eye, and he who allows the head to breathe. The 2 gods named Hey of the stars and Hey of the spirits may reflect a topographical error in the text and probably should have been he instead of Hey. The star goddesses are the adorer, lady of the land, lady of the ladies, the one of the netherworld, the one of the right hand, the leader, the bringer, the opener, the weaver, she who makes brightness, she who makes the forms, she who prevents evil. The text describes the crocodile as being on sand, guarding the image of this city. When he hears the voice of the crew, the eye comes out of the backbone, then the head, which is in the bank, comes out, and he swallows his image after the sun god goes by. If one knows this, his soul will never be swallowed by the crocodile, evil of the lake, which is in the netherworld. Above the crocodile is the text, Eye of Horus, showing that the lambda genome or Eye of Horus on the host chromosome has excised and is now active. Below the head is the text, the head of Osiris, suggesting the icosahedral shell of coat protein or phage prohead from a scaffolding protein core, which is crocodile. The star deities. At this point, Hour 7 depicts the first stage of phage head and the tail assembly or the packaging of DNA into reassembled protein shells called procapsids or proheads. Many viruses can self-assemble into icosahedral structures, the simplest form being one with 60 subunits arranged as 12 pentatamers. For example, bacteriophage P22 assembles into a procapsid composed of a T=7 icosahedral shell of coat protein surrounding a scaffolding protein core. DNA is then pumped into the prohead in a process powered by ATP hydrolysis. Portal protein play a key role because they are head to tail connectors that function as DNA pump, provide a docking site for the phage tail, and assemble the prohead. The portal complex is composed of a ring of 12 subunits of portal protein, which suggests the 12 star gods, with the 12 star goddesses representing the scaffolding proteins. Research confirms that the T=7 bacteriophage P22 requires the P22 scaffold protein for portal protein incorporation into the procapsids. Other research indicates that many viruses require scaffolding proteins to direct capsid assembly. Evidence suggests that both dimers and tetramers are the scaffolding proteins of the scaffolding protein play a role in the assembly. Thus, it is possible that the 12 gods and 12 goddesses indicate the joint activity of the portal complex. Also relative in lambda portal protein GPB, which has 12 subunits assembled into a dodecameric ring with a central channel. Researchers believe that DNA enters the prohead, then exits at this point during DNA injection, finally providing the tail attachment site. Recall that the dodecahedron shares icosahedral symmetry with a icosahedron. The symmetry axes are the same. However, the dodecahedral object has 12 pentagonal faces instead of the 20 triangular ones of an icosahedral. The drawing of the 12 gods with the stars indicates 60 subunits arranged as 12 pentatamers. The traditional stellation diagram of the icosahedron is suggested by the 5-pronged star structure above each god's head. If one considers each god a pentatamer, as represented by the 5-armed star, and the group of the 12 gods as a whole, the 60 subunits are arranged as 12 pentatamers. This 60 subunit structure is further supported by the names of the gods and goddesses. They are named the hours, suggesting 60 minutes, or the minimum of 60 subunits. The text in SETI I further supports the function of the portal protein in that it asserts that the 24 star deities will guide Ra's 2 hands as he journeys through the beautiful Amenta. The task at hand is the function of phage head assembly. The crocodile now becomes the representation of the hydrophobic sand medium that provides the phage prohead or head of Osiris, that is the scaffolding protein core. Upon DNA packing, the scaffold proteins are digested and the DNA fills the head. The RVI text over the crocodile states, the moment he hears the voice of the crew of the barge of Ra, the eye comes out of his backbone. Then the head, which is in the bank, comes out. He swallows his image after this great god has passed by him. In other words, the scaffolding proteins are digested. Crocodile swallows his image after the DNA voice words of Ra crew is pumped through the head. Head in the bank comes out. The text from RVI asserts that Horus speaks to the stars, saying, "May your forms come into being and stand up before Ra, he of the horizons, who is the netherworld every day. You are in his following, while you stars are before him, to let him pass through the beautiful west." Thus, it seems that the DNA of the sun god is ready to pass through the portal protein complex, so the star god allows the heads to become alive or breathe, and we easily understand the name of the 12th star god, called He Who Allows the Heads to Breathe. All right, and we get a shot at the matrix number 14 for the Amduat hour 7. All right, so this is our new matrix. Get that. When we come back again, we'll be on hour 8, and I'll probably try to get hour 8 and 9 together. If not, we'll break it down to 8 and then 9. But until then, peace kings, peace queens. Holla at y'all later.